The movie begins with a heavy rainstorm rolling over a remote rundown trailer park on the outskirts of town. We're introduced to Patrick, a middle-aged man living alone in a small cluttered trailer. Patrick seems disconnected, drifting through the silence, drinking, smoking, and occasionally glancing at a radio that plays old somber tunes. He's clearly used to being alone. Outside, the storm intensifies. Wind shakes the windows, and thunder rattles the walls. Then comes a knock at the door. When Patrick opens it, he finds a young woman standing barefoot in the rain. She's drenched, shivering, and hesitant, asking if she can come inside to get out of the storm. Her story is vague. She says she walked from the beach, that her boyfriend kicked her out of the car, and that her phone is dead. Patrick hesitates but eventually lets her in. She thanks him, keeping her arms close to her body, clearly uncomfortable but trying to stay composed. Inside, the trailer is dim and quiet. Patrick offers her a towel and lets her take a shower to warm up. As she disappears into the small bathroom, he hovers near the door, clearly uneasy. While she showers, he touches the handle briefly, then quickly pulls his hand away. When she returns, wrapped in an old shirt, the tension is still thick. Patrick is at the tiny kitchenette, leaning over a pot, the rich smell of soup filling the air. He glances over his shoulder with a small rehearsed smile and tells her he made something to warm her up. On the counter, he sets down a folded jersey, worn but soft. She hesitates for a moment, then slips it on, feeling its warmth seep into her skin. She wanders toward the window, rain streaking the glass, the dark trailer park barely visible beyond. She breaks the quiet with a question, asking why did he move all the way out there. Patrick doesn't answer right away. He quietly slides the steaming bowl toward her instead. She sits, takes the spoon in her hand, and stares into the soup for a moment before murmuring that she's just a little tired from work. Patrick's head tilts, realizing the detail doesn't line up with the story she gave him earlier about being lost on the beach, stranded by her boyfriend. Something flickers in his eyes, but he forces a smile and nods slowly, trying to keep the tension buried. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. Patrick rises carefully, the floor groaning under his weight as he approaches the door. He hesitates, then pulls it open. The wind and rain howl in, but the porch is empty. Shadows ripple over wet gravel. He lingers for a beat before locking the door again, muttering that the local kids like to mess with him. The woman sits stiffly at the sofa, her spoon hovering over the soup. Then the lights flicker, and darkness swallows the trailer. The rain and the distant rumble of thunder are the only sounds. Patrick exhales, grabs a flashlight from a counter drawer, and tells her the power's down. Out here, that means the phone lines are dead too. Whatever call she wanted to make at the payphone will have to wait until the storm passes. He tries to sound casual as he adds that she can leave if she's uncomfortable. But instead of leaving, she suggests he check the circuit breaker, maybe flip the power back on. Patrick hesitates, then agrees, and steps toward the back, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the trailer's tight shadowed space. The woman sits frozen for a moment, thinking. The wind rattles the trailer's thin walls. Her hand hovers over the doorknob, the thought of bolting flickering in her mind, but the storm outside roars, and she lingers. Finally, she moves toward the back where Patrick is crouched at the breaker panel, metal tools clinking softly as he works. She offers to hold the flashlight for him, the narrow beam trembling in her hand. As he leans forward, she notices the torn fabric at the back of his shirt and the dark smear beneath. She tells him that he's bleeding. He glances back, touching the spot with his fingers, then shrugs like it's nothing. She moves away to fetch something to help him. In the bathroom, she opens a cabinet, looking for first aid, and her eyes fall on a bottle of pills. She picks it up and when she tilts the container, something rattles inside that doesn't sound like medicine. She finds her earrings. Her breath catches, her pulse hammering in her ears. She closes the container with trembling fingers and steps out slowly, the trailer now feeling smaller. She tells Patrick that she wants to leave. He frowns, his face tightening with something between irritation and pleading. He reminds her of the weather, but she insists anyway and asks for the key to the door. He gets annoyed at her as it seems like he doesn't want her to leave. But when she pushes again, he snaps that the door isn't locked, so she can go if she wants. Her hand closes around the handle and she pulls the door open. A wall of wind and rain slams into her. The world outside is a blur of black water and whipping branches. She grips the frame, heart racing, and hesitates. Slowly, she shuts the door and steps back inside. Patrick notices her unease, and suggests they play cards. She agrees and as they play, the rhythm of the game starts to ease the oppressive air in the trailer. Patrick watches her with a subtle curiosity and asks where she's from. The woman avoids his question, and Patrick notices but doesn't press. Instead, he switches gears, telling her a few quiet jokes about the odd things he's seen around the trailer park, even exaggerating a story about a raccoon that broke in once. Slowly, the woman becomes relaxed and her fear leaves her body. Finally, she opens up. She tells him that before she came here, she had been drinking at the bar, just trying to shake off a long day. But Patrick's head tilts, he remembers her story differently. She had said she was at the beach, stranded and lost. His eyes meet hers, steady but not unkind, and he tells her she just lied. Before she can stammer an excuse, he sighs and leans back, confessing that he lied to her too. He gestures to the warm jersey she's wearing and tells her that it belonged to his wife. The woman instinctively starts to remove it, murmuring an apology, but Patrick stops her gently, insisting she keep it on. His voice softens with a hint of grief as he admits that ever since his wife passed away, he's been completely alone, and she's the first visitor he's had since. He looks at her with a quiet, earnest expression and tells her that, for the first time in a long while, he feels seen, and thanks her. The woman's heart warms despite the unease crawling under her skin. They sip his brandy together, but as she lifts her glass, she notices faint lip stains on the rim. A prickle of dread climbs her spine. She sets the glass down slowly, her mind catching on every small off detail she's noticed tonight. Suddenly, the storm outside surges. A violent gust rocks the trailer, and Patrick rushes outside to check the power lines, leaving her in the oppressive dark alone. Soon, she hears a phone ringing from somewhere deeper in the trailer. Her pulse spikes, as Patrick had told her he didn't have a phone. Slowly, she follows the sound and also finds a dead body in the room. Suddenly, Patrick steps back inside the trailer and the woman locks herself in the bathroom. She tries to pry open the window but it's jammed tight. She slips out of the bathroom quietly and tiptoes toward the kitchen, desperate to reach the main door. Her fingers fumble at the lock, but before she can pull it open, Patrick looms behind her, and grabs her but she manages to twist free, diving under the table. But he crouches down, his face now stripped of all warmth, and drags her out. Rope bites into her wrists and ankles as he ties her tightly, ignoring her screams. He disappears into the other room, leaving her on the floor. The woman painfully crawls toward the hallway, but the creak of his boots warns her too late. Patrick drags her into the bedroom and drops her onto the bed. He tells her about the woman in the room. He saw her at the gas station. He explains that she needed a ride, but brought her here instead. As he talks, the woman frantically works at the ropes until, miraculously, she slips free. She stumbles toward the window but her limbs feel like lead. A heavy drowsiness washes over her and she realizes that Patrick must have put something in her drink. She falls to the floor, trying to crawl, but Patrick scoops her up effortlessly and sets her on the sink, urging her to vomit. Her hand trembles toward a sharp object nearby, and in a burst of will, she tries to stab him. He overpowers her easily, pinning her arms as she slumps against him. Patrick tells her the truth. He's a killer, he hunts women, and doesn't know why he kills. That's why he stays out here, away from people. But, it seems like they always find their way to him anyway. The woman's breathing slows, and he lays her limp body on his bed and watches her chest rise and fall, slower and slower, before covering her face with the sheet. For a moment, the trailer is filled with only the storm and his heavy breathing. He opens his hand and looks at the poison he used, and he's sure she'll never wake. Suddenly, the radio crackles to life on its own. A whisper threads through the dark. He freezes and turns toward the bed. A thin scar has appeared across the woman's head, a mark he didn't leave. All of a sudden, the woman rises, and Patrick stumbles back in shock as her figure lurches toward him. Then the shadows in the trailer seem to shift, and the shapes of his past victims materialize, silent and staring. He screams, scrambling backward as the dark presses in. Something grips him from behind, drags him into the dark, and cuts him up. He bursts free for a moment, gasping, and sees his trailer filled with the ghosts of every woman he's ever killed. He crawls toward the door, clawing at the floor, but his strength fails. A knock rattles the trailer. It's the police, but he stays silent. Then the woman steps into view, and drags him into the lounge. She forces him to drink the whiskey, the same poison he used on all of them, and forces it to his lips. He drinks as the shadows close in. Seconds later, in a snap, he's all alone. He checks outside and lets out a low laugh. Slowly, he shuts the door as he realizes he was only imagining things. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more notifications. Until next time. See you soon.